Hello everyone, and welcome to Robert's Book Reviews. Today I'll be reviewing All Men Are Mortal by Simone de Beauvoir. This book is about immortality. Simone de Beauvoir presents a character who drinks the elixir of life, and this enables him to be immortal. However, throughout his journey, we see that immortality is more of a curse than a blessing. Simone de Beauvoir also encourages us subtly to rethink the way we look at death. Instead of looking at it as something devastating, through the protagonist, we develop an appreciation for death, something as liberating, which I found pretty interesting. On the same note, I found that what was interesting was that Simone de Beauvoir presented a character who took us on a journey with him and in a way gave us a glimpse of what immortality feels like. And I found this interesting because obviously as humans we don't get to live forever. I think the oldest human has lived to 120, 119, I'm not exactly sure, but to see what it's like to live an extended life and to see how much can be accomplished, I found super interesting. Um, I really enjoyed that. It was definitely fascinating. Um, Also, what I liked was that Simone de Beauvoir was able to show that despite being mortals, in a way it's better than being immortal. And she showed this by showing the value and the beauty of mortality. Like, there is an end date. Our days are numbered. This is something that is a good thing because, in essence, it gives our life meaning. And we're able to see that it gives our life so much more meaning than an immortal person. And in many ways, you can argue that the immortal person doesn't have a meaningful life because it doesn't end. I found that really interesting. Also, I liked how Simone de Beauvoir was able to show that summer, winter, fall, spring, like all these seasons for an immortal person is torment, right? Because they're confined to it. They can't leave this reality. And it made me think of how prisoners or inmates are confined to a prison. Whether to serve life sentences or whatever the case is, they're confined to that prison for a fixed time because no matter what, eventually through death or just the expiry of their sentence, they're released. But an immortal person doesn't have that luxury. An immortal person is confined to this reality. And I never was able to really grasp the torment in that until I was able to read the story because it shows that, like, wow, like the days are frustrating. Like seeing these season changes, there's no beauty in it. It's just the same thing over and over and over again. And so I found that super interesting. I also liked how the author was able to show that in a way, like as human beings, we're supposed to value life. But when you're immortal, it becomes different. You look at life the way you look at like the life of an insect. It becomes insignificant. And it kind of shows like to be a human is to be compassionate about human life. But when you're immortal, you can't feel that passion. So in essence, it's like you become more like your own, and like you're not a human at that point. Like even though you're a human, it's like you don't belong, right? Because your way of thinking, what you've seen, what you've experienced, like you experience people dying regularly. You've lived centuries. Like it's a whole different perspective, and I felt like that kind of was like very very like surprising to me on how like the protagonist just changed his perspective on how we looked at human life. Because to him, it's literally like he sees all men, women, just dying, right? And for many times they die for nothing. At least that's his perception of it. But I did find that interesting. Obviously, the story does present a lot of, um, of the main protagonist, his love interest. Um, I found it very, very sad. Not the fact that eventually the woman he were with died, but the fact that when he had children, he knew that he would outlive them. So having children and being in relationships with people was something that was hard to read, because it's like deep down he knows that like they're gonna die, and he tries to have these genuine relationships with especially women, but he can't be himself, because no he feels in his heart that no woman will accept him for him. So he tries to hide his immortality in certain relationships. um, and I found that kind of sad, because it's like you live all these years, but yet you can't really open up to a woman and really show them who you are. Like, you always have to hide a part of yourself in the relationship that you're in, and only a few people know, that you are immortal. So, obviously it's a secret, for certain people. Um, but yeah, yeah, definitely found those points interesting. Um, in all honesty, one thing I didn't like about this book was the fact that the story could have been a lot more entertaining and exciting, but I found that the story itself was pretty mundane. It wasn't, about a guy who was able to be immortal and accomplish so much with his life. It was really a mundane story. However, I do think it was done intentionally by the author, because I feel like she wanted to portray that just because you live a long life, just because you are immortal, doesn't mean it's your story is any more better than a person who lives a shorter life, right? And so, even though the story was a bit boring, I get where the author was coming from, and in a way, it kind of amplified the message of the story, which I found to be very effective in my view. Um, I would recommend this book to anyone who just wants to learn more about life, and who is literally just interested about learning more about themselves. It can help you to become more content about your life and literally appreciate it a lot more. I found after reading this book, I definitely appreciate life through its ups and its downs. And yeah, I definitely would give this book 3 stars out of 5. Um, the message was very profound, and I just like the way the author was able to take the reader on a journey of immortality. Um, it's very fascinating. I felt like I was immortal while reading this book, so it was very, very, very effective. Again, the only reason I'm not giving it a perfect 5 star is simply because the story to me wasn't as exciting as it could be. But overall, yeah, it's a good read, and I highly recommend it. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you liked it and enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.